Hello everyone, welcome back to another installment of Jedi Jive. This is the 9th week in a row that we've done this. Thank you so much for tuning in. I already see some familiar faces. We have the illustrious Jenny, the incomparable Jenny, and we also have John and Dylan from All New Nerds again. If you haven't been over to All New Nerds yet, go over to All New Nerds on YouTube. Please subscribe. Help get these boys to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So yeah, some new videos coming out from those guys this week. Go check it out now. Can't wait to get into some more Falcon and Winter Soldier. This week was crazy. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. Lots of not so fun stuff to talk about, actually. There was some depressing stuff going on, so hang in there. We're gonna go live in a minute. Yo. Here we are. Welcome back, Jedi Jive Live.
Hello.
Number 9. We've done this 9 weeks in a row, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Weird.
Is it weird?
Doesn't feel like 9 weeks.
It doesn't feel like
No,
9 weeks,
not
but
at all. Oh my gosh.
When you're having fun.
yeah, and obviously, guys in the chat, there's a little bit of a stream delay. It may take 30 seconds for you to see, but let us know that you can hear everybody. Let us know that John and Dylan and Jenny are heard.
I'm hearing everyone. I'm on the
You
stream.
can hear it on your end.
Okay, good
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
Who we got today? We got Hustle Mando as usual, Christina as usual, Kit Fisto. Love the name, dude. Kit Fisto is highly underrated Jedi.
Mhm.
Definitely one of my top favorites among also Plo Koon. Gotta love Plo Koon.
Oh yeah.
And MP, Sean Banks, what's up, dude? Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the 9th week in a row that we've done this, which is like, I'm so proud of us because we really just planned on just kind of throwing this out there and being kind of random with it.
When we were first trying to figure this out, it was just like, we'll see where it goes, and it's been good. So
yeah, dude. So yeah, thanks for tuning in and keeping this going. We're growing to expect, you guys expect us to do this, so we're gonna try and hold to it. And obviously, this week is gonna be probably a long conversation because this show has already proven to be like a good conversation show. I mean, WandaVision was definitely its own thing. It was like we had a lot of fun with that, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going deep on so many subjects that are some of them pretty unexpected for Marvel, to be honest, that you wouldn't necessarily think Marvel would go this deep. And consistently too in this show, where every week you're like, wow, they're not shying back. They're going for it, and they're showing us these subjects. So with that said, let's jump in and talk about this episode. I think one of the most powerful scenes in the episode, right off the bat, first scene, Bucky in Wakanda. Can we just take a moment to talk about Sebastian Stan's acting in that scene? And it's not often that the most emotionally heavy episode or scene in an episode is the very first one where right off the bat you're almost crying just feeling Bucky's pain and seeing what he's going through. So yeah, John, tell me about how that scene. What did that scene do for you?
Well, if you watched my reaction, I was kind of freaking out about it. I didn't even theorize. I know you guys didn't need it. I did not know that Wakanda was going to have an involvement in the show. I mean, from last week, but man, I had a feeling that it was just going to literally be a continuation of that scene that we ended off on last week's episode. And I loved it. I mean, that was a great scene, and I'm so glad that they picked and chose that they chose that scene, because I was like, I mean, that's a big part of Bucky's arc as a character, especially in this show. he's kind of you know, battled with that, and we got that all the way back in Civil War. We knew he was in Wakanda, you know, kind of recuperating and all that stuff. So like actually seeing that, you know, the effect, the like I call like assassin mode, you know, his assassin
Yeah.
mode is officially kind of turned off. That was a big scene. So yeah, and Sebastian Stan killed it with that scene. I mean, again,
Yeah,
I
that
know
was
people
awesome.
don't, some people don't like it, but I keep seeing Luke. I'm sorry. I keep
Yeah.
seeing it.
Yeah,
I-
dude.
I-
One of these
All
days
your
we'll get
little
it.
Twins. It's
So-
not
so-
just you. Like, it's
So
absurd.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. And
He's proven the acting chops at this point too, though. So it's more than
100%.
yes, yeah.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll get to it later, but you know, the other scene with the Dora Milaje was killer. So
Yeah.
Definitely my
I'm-
favorite scene in a
yeah,
very
that was
difficult
the best
episode
fight
with
scene,
the
I'd
Dora
argue,
Milaje
so.
scene.
Yeah, that was
I think
sick.
this opening scene with Bucky and Ayo together is interesting because you know, you'd think that, you know, him being involved with the killing of the king, essentially, that they would have already to bridge an enormous gap to get to the point where she's just sitting there helping him work through his issues or whatever,
Mhm.
and that like they would have already had to evolve as you know, their relationship together for her to even trust him in that way,
For
right?
sure, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so then
Yeah.
to then see like the way the last episode ended, now we're like she's like basically cursing his name. She did give him 8 hours, but
Yeah.
basically they're showing up and being like "F you, bro." Like, so like we have to assume that their relationship has evolved. I mean, specifically Bucky and Ayo, but like obviously Bucky and his relationship to Wakanda in general. That, you know, you come out of this episode fearing that like he's like, how reparable is the damage
are
he's
you
done to
implying
his-
like a maybe
Well,
a
I know-
possible love relationship between them?
People seem to want to imply it.
I
Yeah.
don't.
People have wanted to imply it. I feel like that's a side issue. Like, I feel like that's not even the most important
Right. Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting to
consideration
think
here,
about, you know.
because it goes so much deeper than any particular label you want to put on it, for all like the reasons Mike's saying, like the sort of evolved nature of these folks to be able to get past, like, they thought he killed their king, and regardless of the fact that he didn't, he has done some bad things, and
Right.
like
100%.
being willing to take him in the first place, like not only what he personally has done, but like all the things he symbolizes, like American imperialism. Even before he was Hydra, he was like US Army, you know, so like to be able to get past that and help this dude is already such a huge thing. And you can, in that scene, completely see why he would have an allegiance to Wakanda and to Ayo personally, because of everything she and the country have done for him. And then for her to get to this place where she's like, F you, like, make it good or else we're done. That's
Right.
Yeah, I think it was very evident in that scene though, and that it's not just speculative, and that like her facial expressions, just like it seemed very evident on the surface that like that they had maybe not an intimate relationship, but that was definitely an intimate moment. You know what I mean? So they definitely, it wasn't something that you need to speculate about. I think they've like established that those two are definitely at least connected on that level, because for her to be there for him in that moment alone, and then to show like, you know, relief on her face when he's free, essentially, is
I speaking of that, what I really took away from that scene was when she does say you're free, but he's crying, and like from what we've seen, he's not free, you know? Like he still
Mhm.
has all the memories of everything he's done. Like that is not the look of
trauma
a free
now. It's
man,
the
you know?
trauma.
Dylan, that
Yeah.
was my exact reaction. Like, that line
Yeah.
socked me in the gut, because it was a lot of folks in the comments here saying that scene made them cry. It really made me a little misty too. It was so hard to watch, and it was like further insight into, for him, being free is its own type of prison. And when she said you're free, he smiled, you know, he's free
He
of his
did, yeah.
brainwashing, but the cost of that, the cost of like awaking from
100%.
his brainwashing, means he has to be fully aware at every hour of every day of all the things he's done. Whereas when he was the Winter Soldier, it was like a mind wipe. He could just go back into stasis basically until they woke him up again. And now he's awake 24/7. So he's aware 24/7, and he has to live.
Yeah. Which
He
brings
has
you
to
back
live
to
with
the
all
first
of that.
episode and him and his little booklet of like his penance booklet, basically. Like he has to live with these nightmares every night because that's the only way he can remain James Bucky Barnes instead of the Winter Soldier. And Jenny, you definitely pointed out, like right away, Ayo says, "I won't let you hurt anybody," and you're like, and that's his rule number 2.
It's rule
Yeah.
number 2.
Yeah. which is
which we've already established, like he has been on a slippery slope. Now that like Zemo has escaped and, you know, flown the coop and whatever, that's incentive for Bucky to remain on the side of the good. But like he has been on this high risk path. He's indulging in high risk behavior. We spoke last week about the, you know, cracking a few eggs to make an omelet, like kind of seeming like he was okay with Zemo shooting Dr. Nagel. And it's like, careful, like those rules number 1 and 2, don't do anything illegal and don't hurt anybody. They're there for a reason, you know? And so he's been kind of in a danger zone, but this gave us some more insight into how precarious sort of his psychological position is in all of this.
And I've mentioned before how like we've seen Steve go back and get to be happy with Peggy. So like it seems like, wow, and I've mentioned before, it's like Sebastian Stan, what a stud. It seems like a waste of a good-looking guy to like not give him his share.
I think we were talking about this last week.
The actress that plays
Ayo
Ayo is like astonishingly gorgeous. So like you from a shallow perspective, you just want to see them get together because you want to see beautiful people get together like that.
I think we were talking about it last week. We were saying like, is Bucky, you know, we were talking about the White Wolf thing. I mean, again, that was name dropped in this episode. So again, it's like, maybe they're leaning towards it. It seems, anyways, but about a relationship. I mean, again, like we've gotten relationship stuff, even in episode 1 when he went on that date and you know, it didn't go well. So, I mean, I think it is my point of bringing that up. I think they are, you know, teasing some kind of Bucky will eventually find someone and maybe it is.
True that like as humans we just want to watch hot people make out, like that's just I mean that's not even a narrative.
Why have a sex scene in a movie at all? It's exactly. It appeals to your human instincts.
Like, we all enjoy, but at the same time there's a very fine line. You don't want to undervalue the story by falling into like a rom-com trope when, as Mike pointed out, there is this like incredible intimacy to what they've been through together that goes much deeper. It's like soldiers on a battlefield, brothers in arms, siblings in arms, you know, like this is so much bigger than any other part of a relationship would be. Like they know each other on such a profound level. And
plus, why should he be her problem to begin with unless they actually had know considerable feelings in that regard?
I think with the theme of the show, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Just like I think it would make it that much more impactful if he did get into an intimate relationship at the end of the show, if he learns to like accept himself and love himself, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then he can go on to actually share that with other people. So I think that could be a cool thing to explore with this character, like later down the line or at the end of the show.
Well, it's interesting you say like later down the line, because I think that's another question that comes up is the like, oh, well, this seems like a potential storyline. We have 2 episodes left in this season. I know there's some talk of like Falcon and Winter Soldier like possibly having potential for a second season because we have this whole Sharon Carter potential power broker story. You know,
going to be a second season.
Yeah, and like U.S. Agent basically just showed up essentially, so I don't think we're gonna like waste the John. Like Battlestar's dead.
Oh,
right?
you think it's going to be a 2-parter type show? I mean, I think the season.
I don't know. I just mean like
I don't think they've made those decisions yet. But Feige did specifically name drop like both Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier as shows that had been envisioned as potentially having second seasons. Like,
well, either way, like this is Marvel, this is MCU. It doesn't need to be Falcon and Winter Soldier. You might see Bucky appear in the next Black Panther movie doing this stuff and have that storyline continue, even though it's like, to what degree will Bucky be part of the Black Panther storyline now? Is his relationship with Wakanda going to be repaired to the point where, I mean, that's what we want to see, right?
Yeah, and we do have a lot of, Black Panther Wakanda.
That's where we said we want him to retire there, right?
The show and the Black Panther too.
Yeah. So it very well could be about. I mean, I think
if there is no second season, then that would be the logical place to see that storyline continue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Our good friend Hustle Mando pointed out that he's happy to see that actress getting more screen time, and I agree. Yeah. Her name is Florence Kasumba. She's Ugandan and German, which is interesting because this show has been spending so much time in Germany, but she's playing a Wakandan. I almost was wondering, like, they moved out of Germany and into Latvia, but I was kind of hoping that they would like give her an opportunity to speak German and be like, oh, these Vermalaje are so well educated. They're
Yeah.
multilingual.
That'd be
Yeah, I
awesome.
was kind of hoping
Yeah.
that would come out, but
They
she
definitely
is,
had the best line of the entire episode too, which is like the Dormalaje, with their jurisdiction is wherever they find themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the
And
best
Yes.
line.
she's the earliest Dora Milaje that we've ever seen, because she was in Civil War. So
yeah, she goes
she was
back.
the
She's
first.
she's
She's
been
OG.
around.
She's first.
She's OG, yeah.
Yeah.
OG Wakanda.
So like I actually
great.
wanted to point something out about how like being a reactor on YouTube, not just like a reactor, but also like a YouTuber in general, and like I edit my own videos. Usually dead space is the kind of thing that like YouTubers get rid of. And this episode I saw a lot of reactors, including myself and Jenny, leaving in dead space intentionally right at the end there, because that the dead space was actually part of the reaction in this regard, and I saw
Yes.
many reactions that included just people basically like drop jaw, like speechless,
Yeah.
not knowing
No, I
exactly
did
how
too.
to
I
process
did too.
that at the very end. And
Yeah.
that Jenny said like, this feels gross, like I feel like all we should do right now is mourn for a minute, like, and we kind of just both sit there like in silence for a second. I thought that was actually sort of that spoke volumes, and that like usually dead space is like a nightmare for a YouTuber. You're like, cut that out, edit that out. But in this case, hearing that the silence was deafening. And I saw a lot.
I felt that physically, like I needed a breath and a moment of silence.
Yeah, and I think for some people it hit on
physically
different
felt
levels, because I know I'm obviously a Marvel fan. Like I have a YouTube channel where I nerd out about this stuff with you guys. But like Captain America wasn't my like favorite comic when I was a kid. I was really into like Silver Surfer and stuff like that.
Hell
But
yeah.
I liked Captain America, but he wasn't like, I didn't, it's because that Nico character who ends up dying at the hands of the Captain America shield talks about how he looked up to Captain America when he was a kid or whatever. So for me, it wasn't quite as personal in terms of feeling like I had like any personal stake in the Captain America character, but I did see reactors who were like, Captain America means a lot to me. And like seeing that, like they weren't prepared to like see that shield get used as a murder weapon. Essentially, it's like, sure, Steve Rogers like bonked a ton of Nazis in the head with that thing, and I'm sure it had blood on it before, but not like in that like distinct murder weapon, horrifying the way we just saw it.
The image with the blood spattered across it.
Yeah,
They have covered this in the show. Bucky and Sam had that conversation before the airdrop into Germany, when Bucky said that shield means a lot of things to a lot of people. And yet again, as Marvel has been doing, there is a lot of meta commentary about the state of the world that has been going on since WandaVision and throughout this show. And it's this idea that like the reason John Walker was chosen in the first place was because they literally chose somebody who like physically resembles Chris Evans or Steve Rogers. They literally chose this like blonde golden boy who has every quote unquote traditional qualification. And what that proves is that the imperial arm of America, the government, the armed forces, whatever we understand that to be, but the arm of America that represents imperialism has not learned anything from the blip, from the past 100 years of history. They're clinging to this outdated image of what America means, that it's still just like good guys and bad guys, allies and Nazis, and everybody in that conversation is white. And instead, we're dealing with this globalized world, which in the world is true. Like we do have cell phones everywhere. We have Twitter, like people are talking to each other in a way that they were not during World War II. And also in the storyline, we've had the blip during which there was like world cooperation and one world nation and effectively world peace. And coming out of that and trying to go back to normal, is the root of all these problems, trying to cling to something that is no longer relevant rather than embracing a new, more diverse way forward. So that's like America's first mistake right there. And in this case, it's coming to bite them in the ass, but it's taking this incredibly powerful symbol, the shield, and using it in a way that like nobody really believes in anymore. And the sort of horrifying conclusion of that is this shield being used physically to perpetrate an act of unspeakable violence.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the symbolism of that, whether or not you yourself were a big Captain America fan, the symbol of that, sort of like the decline and fall of America's image on the world stage, is very deliberate, and I'm sure very relatable to all of us who are like alive and aware of the
Yeah.
world around us.
And there's
right
obviously a very tragic, obvious parallel in the like everybody having their camera phones pointed at a murder in broad daylight, and then we're simultaneously witnessing this George Floyd trial going on, in which it's basically somebody on trial
100%.
for murdering someone with everybody with their cameras pointed at it, and it's
Yep.
just And the
The
fact that
timing of
the
that is remarkable.
episode is called "The Whole World Is Watching," and it's specifically about that, almost that voyeurship, if that's the way you want to, like, murder as voyeurship, right?
Right. I
Yeah.
think
Voyeurism,
Battlestar,
rather.
kind of, to Jenny's point, I remember he put it like when they were talking, John was like, I don't know, am I the right person for the serum or whatever? And he's like, of course you are. You're the perfect soldier, 3 medals of honor. Like, it's all about perspective, like from what you're looking at. Like, to a lot of people, he's saved thousands, he's a perfect soldier. Like, no wonder they chose John Walker, you know?
He admits, though, that like what they got those medals for, if people really knew what they did,
Exactly.
it wouldn't seem as like. So he was basically admitting to already have murdered some people.
Right.
Like,
right.
yeah,
Yes.
we killed civilians. We whatever. There was collateral damage. Like, probably some children died when we blew up that building full of
100%.
terrorists or whatever. Yeah,
I'm just really impressed with how they play with perspective.
Yeah.
And like, you
Exactly.
kind of really
Yeah.
feel for almost everyone in the show. Like, I know a lot of people hate John Walker, but a part of me is like,
Yeah.
I can see where he's coming from. Like, there's a
100%.
lot of pressure. And like,
you feel sorry for him.
before,
Yeah.
I don't think he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
But like, now I am starting to, but it's just
Yeah.
like,
I do want to
But,
talk
you
more about.
understand how he got that way. Like, we totally see like how that came to pass. And I mean, this
100%.
ties into like this, one of the larger themes of this episode was people being treated like they're disposable, like they're not real people, or they're not the people who count. So that conversation between him and Battlestar, where he's like, if they really knew what we did, they wouldn't love us so much. It's like when you're treating civilians in the Middle East as like disposable video game characters rather than as humans who each have their own family, their own life. And then what we see in the show is that it's somehow easier for us psychologically to reckon with that. It shouldn't be, but it is. When we hear about like a village being bombed in the Middle East, even if ideologically we think that's really bad, like I'm a pacifist. Mike and I went to Quaker school for 14 years. Like, I'm very much a pacifist, but there is a disconnect when you're not able to relate it to your own life somehow. That's just very human. We have more trouble as humans thinking of far away populations as human than we do people close to home. And the point this show is making is it's going on here too. Just because the news hasn't always told us about inequities, like there was that line when Sam's sister said, America doesn't care about me.
Right.
This has been going on under our noses, and all this like equality that America was allegedly fighting for wasn't always equal for everybody. It's never been equal for everybody. That this is going on under our noses as well as overseas, as well as abroad. And the thing about John Walker is that like he's been fighting for this equality, this like great American ideal that he believed in. But part of the problem for him, I think, is confronting the reality of his own privilege. It's like what I said about Bucky and Isaiah. Like, Bucky has been through more than like any human in this show. He's been through something that like no real human could withstand. But when he goes into that room with Isaiah, between the two of them, he has a level of privilege that Isaiah does not enjoy. They've both been experimented on. They've both been put through hell. They've both been sent to war. But at the end of the day, Bucky's not going to get stopped outside his own house by cops, and Isaiah still might, So
Yeah.
there's this idea of like levels of privilege and people being forced to confront their place in a system they were unaware even existed until now.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
John Walker just goes wherever the hell he wants. Like, the U.S. government, John Walker, like, they are just like.
I thought
none
it
of this
was
has been
funny that
taking
he
place-
mentioned
He showed up.
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
He mentions
Right.
jurisdiction, but it's like, bro, you're already like in a different country. This is
Yeah.
This is
jurisdiction.
outside
Even-
of your jurisdiction. Yeah.
Like,
Get the
in
F outta here with that.
collateral damage, like, they're not going to face any consequence for this, and they're not even in the states.
Well, that's
They're-
actually the next thing I wanted to talk about, was because of like this situation with John Walker. Obviously, it's clearly like shocking act committed in broad daylight in front of the whole world. what's the future for John Walker? Do you think it's more likely that he ends up dead or redeemed? Because
Yeah.
it's hard to
I do
know,
wanna-
but we do want to see redemption if possible. So, John, what do you
Right.
think is going to happen for John Walker's future?
Oh, you think it? Oh, redemption. I don't see it that way. I think they've even kind of seemed like they've kind of said this, but like I think it's kind of past the point of redemption with his character. I mean, like now he's serumed up. That's one big thing. From the episode, he's serumed up, and so again, and all right. So let me go down this little rabbit hole because in the episode they were talking about the serum, and I think it was the scene with Carly, and she kind of says like all the serum does is just kind of it just boosts like everything about you, and even like those dark parts or who you are. It kind of boosts who you are. So I mean, even before the serum, John was just kind of this somewhat of a hot shot. He gets angry pretty easily and can be violent. Obviously, we saw him when he was it last week. As he was yelling at that guy and say, "Do you know who I am?" All that stuff. So that's only going to be heightened now due to the serum. So
Yeah, but now he'll be like the U.S. government, and who knows who else is gonna. It's clear that he can't. That was murder. There's no like. It's just one of those.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I think might
he
happen.
can't just
I think the
continue being
government
Captain America.
Yeah, I think the government's gonna try to cover that up though. I think there's gonna be some element of
Really,
that.
even with all those
Yeah.
people
I mean,
watching
they can
and
try, but like everyone in the world saw it. Every cell phone in the
Right.
world.
I mean, if they are talking about this government control and government conspiracy, all that stuff, which they seem to be discussing a little bit, I would not be surprised if that's where they go. Or, I mean,
because
yeah.
it's not just that gets covered up. It's like Isaiah Bradley has already been covered up,
right?
for
So we know that
decades,
they've been,
and we
covering
want to
up
see
things.
him get. We want that story
and
to be
Sam
exposed.
is aware of that now. Sam knows
Yes.
Isaiah exists. And
This is
Sam
actually
also
interesting.
saw John Walker do this stuff.
Because there's so many connective threads in this episode that are like you can like see how everything connects. Because the stuff that Zemo is talking about, where like if you're a super soldier, you're inherently on the path to supremacy. There's no way, except for Steve Rogers, because Bucky was like, well, Steve wasn't supremacist, and Zemo admits, okay.
Oh, I
like,
think it was Zemo who I was talking about. I think
Yeah,
when he was
Zemo-
talking
he's-
about the serum. Yeah.
And Zemo like readily admits, okay, Steve Rogers is the exception. He's the outlier here, but Zemo still believes in his own philosophy that the inherently super soldiers are bound for supremacy and are bad and should be stopped. So this John Walker situation just goes and proves Zemo
that.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now Zemo
Exactly.
basically just got even more powerful in that regard because he's, as Jenny had pointed out in our reaction, Zemo is basically seeking self-approval of his own philosophy
Yes.
by
Right.
saying like, look, like, so this is just going to go to prove his philosophy. But there was Bucky, and Sam poses that. He's like, what about Bucky? If Bucky can do it. But I find it funny, or not funny, but it's a sad irony that Isaiah Bradley's name isn't brought up in that conversation, because it's like, well, wait a minute, Isaiah Bradley isn't a supremacist. He literally got put in jail for being a hero. So I would have liked to see.
Zemo wouldn't. I don't think Zemo would.
I don't think
That's
Zemo
what I'm
is
saying.
aware of
Zemo
Isaiah
isn't
Bradley.
aware of. So I would like to see Isaiah Bradley's story become more visible to people like Zemo. And
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll probably
Yes.
see him next episode. I mean, I
certainly
don't
hope
think
so.
they were just gonna. I don't think it's gonna be a one and done scene. I think Sam is gonna go back
Yeah.
to him. Or
'Cause
maybe even in the
Dylan-
last episode.
Dylan was pointing out about how you like every character in this show you can sympathize with, even Zemo,
Mhm.
because
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
has and
Yeah.
100%.
and one of the things that's very funny is that like Zemo is consistent. He says that he's gonna behave a certain way, and then we see him pick up the vial and immediately destroy it.
Yeah.
So like he followed through on his promise essentially. Like he didn't go back on his own
Yeah, I was a
philosophy.
little
So
Right.
that's-
nervous
He
for a
didn't
second
give
there.
in to
I did-
temptation to make himself super.
Yeah.
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 We talked about this in our reaction. I think my like knee-jerk response was, at least he's ideologically consistent.
Right.
It wasn't
He's
personal.
consistent.
Like,
yeah, that's
um,
a good thing you can say about
we
Zemo.
did talk about this a lot, but for him, you know how he keeps pushing all of Bucky's buttons and like provoking him on purpose, reading the names off of his little hit list. He keeps, saying the activation code just to see what'll happen. And there is a level where it's for his own entertainment and also for ours, because Danielle Brühl is enjoying the shit out of this role. But on the deeper level, he's trying to prove himself right. He's trying to prove that Bucky is not healed, that Bucky is not redeemed, that there's no coming back from super serum. And if Bucky can resist the pull of the dark side, if Bucky is able successfully to be a redemption story, to be a survival story, then it proves Zemo wrong. It undercuts his entire motivation, his entire philosophy. Like, this revenge journey he's on is undercut if it's proven that people can be redeemed.
Yeah, I like
so-
that idea, but I think I don't think like the the whole activation thing with the book and all that stuff. I don't think that was necessarily due to the serum. It was just kind of like Hydra brainwashing. So I do see a kind of separation in there, but that would be, yeah, I guess I would at the same time, kind of prove him wrong, even though, yeah, I don't know.
Well, if that's the
Yeah.
mechanism he uses to draw the assassin out, is the
Right.
point. Like,
Right.
he's trying every trick in his book to elicit Bucky's demons. He's trying to make Bucky snap, and it's not just for his own entertainment. I think the bigger motivation is he wants to prove himself right. He wants to prove that super soldiers are unequivocally bad, that they're all evil, that at base they're all animals, they're monsters, that they're not human.
Yeah.
So if Bucky can remain human, remain awake and aware, and resist the urge to hurt people who he doesn't need to hurt, then it proves Zemo wrong, and he's trying to prove himself right. He's trying to make a point.
Yeah.
And if he found out about Isaiah, that would even further, I think, like,
So
mess with his ideology.
one of the like overarching themes of this episode that was a line you heard like at least three different characters say, which was means to an end. You see it from multiple different perspectives. And if Zemo's end that he's seeking is just no more super soldiers, or like he succeeded in eliminating 95% of the serum. Unfortunately, there was one left for John Walker.
Yeah.
But now that like that he killed the Nico guy, we're basically just assuming that it's like Carly and John Walker are now the only two super soldiers other than Bucky, right? And
There might be some other
Yeah, there
flag
might be some
smashers. There were like
flag
8 of
smashers, yeah.
them, so there might be a
okay,
few.
so it was really
others.
just her and Nico that were fighting at the end there, and the other ones were just
Wherever, yeah.
missing in action or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say because I mean we had talked about how Sam was gonna have to join forces with Carly at some point, regardless of whether or not they were fighting on the same side, because they would
That
just.
scene was amazing. Sorry to
But
cut
yeah,
in,
we did.
oh.
You mean him and Carly having a conversation?
Yeah, that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Great.
get to see them building a relationship, building trust in each other, and that I
Mhm.
think that further strengthens the idea that like, well, if for instance, like if John Walker is roided up and crazy now, like, and doesn't like immediately step down, if he's just like a rogue, dangerous person now, like, is he gonna continue chasing after Carly now? Like he
I mean,
he
we got
chased
the
that guy
Power
down.
Broker too. They keep teasing the Power Broker now that the Power Broker is going to.
Do you guys actually-
Carly.
do you
So
guys
we're
wanna
definitely
go
going
into
to see
this?
the Power Broker next week?
I agree.
100%. So
I
Okay,
agree.
because
I can say that with confidence.
we talked about the Power Broker and Sharon Carter last week, but I think
Yeah.
there's more evidence in this episode to support Sharon Carter at least being involved with the Power Broker.
Yeah. Yes.
Because we did see the writing on the wall when we first went to Madripoor said the Power Broker is watching you, and Jenny mentioned about how that's a reference to Big Brother is watching you.
1984.
Yeah, and then in this episode, we saw multiple instances of Sharon Carter just having like immediate access to everything, and Sam texting her and saying, "Keep your eyes in the sky," or "Be my eyes in the sky," he said to her.
Well, no,
So,
he
like-
said keep your eye in the sky on Walker, meaning keep your satellite trained on
Well, there you
Walker
go. Yeah, well, even
specifically.
more so. She's like, I got a couple satellites I can use, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, move over, Bruce Wayne.
You know who
like,
has? I'm pretty sure. Do you know who has satellites?
Justin Hammer.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Justin Hammer is like an Elon Musk.
I don't see Sharon Carter being like
show.
the employee of a bad person. I see her
yeah,
being
I
her
really
own
struggle
rogue.
with this.
But,
I really still am fighting against this, her having anything to do with the Power Broker, because I mean, her being embittered by her experiences and going into the underworld and having like this black market art deal, sure, we can understand that she has been failed by the system and treated without the same level of respect that Sam and even Bucky have in being pardoned for their crimes. Like, I can understand Sharon being a little bitter and no
Well,
longer
she
playing by the
specifically
rules.
said, "I can't even talk to
But-
my own father anymore." Like she's
Right, but
basically like
explicitly
kept
like
from her
going
own
on this
life.
mission to create more super soldiers, which is guaranteed to get people killed.
Oh no
and
no no! Wait a
aligning
minute.
yourself on
I've
conflict
seen.
terrorism.
Hold on. Theory. We can have a little side theory here because I've seen multiple people comment this that apparently I didn't realize this, but apparently in the comics, Sharon Carter under mind control from Red Skull is the one that kills Steve Rogers. Sharon Carter is under mind control. So a lot of people
I
are
didn't
thinking,
even know
well,
that.
what if
Okay.
Sharon Carter is a super soldier under mind control, a la Winter Soldier? She could
Huh.
be
Oh,
being
you think
controlled
that?
by the power
Whoa.
broker.
I have seen some people say that. That
We
would
did
at
see
least
her
be more
like lay waste
logical.
Wait,
in that
wait. So
scene.
who are you saying the power broker is then?
Oh, it could be any of the other people that we theoried, because she would be under mind control. She wouldn't be working with them. She would just be like at their command essentially and doing. Hey man,
Yeah.
I'm
I don't
Evan
wanna get
Peters,
into a
okay? Evan
business
Peters.
I don't want to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
down
yeah.
Evan Peters
Yeah.
like full here. I'm sure it's possible. I don't see specific evidence for that specific thing yet.
Yeah.
But at the very least, that would track for me. That would track more logically than the idea that she's just mean and became the power broker. Like I just don't see her
She's
having
mean.
such
No.
you know what I mean? I don't see her making that much of an ethical pivot.
Right.
At
Yeah.
the very least, if she were being mind controlled by somebody else, a la Winter Soldier, that would get around the sort of like the ethical issue.
Wait, but I'm sorry.
yeah.
So you're saying Bucky is mind controlling Sharon?
No. I meant
It's
like is in
somebody
the same way
that's
Winter
power
Soldier
broker,
was
right?
controlled by Zemo.
I'm sorry.
Sharon
Okay,
could be
now
It's
somebody's-
I thought you,
like a sleeper
I got it,
assassin,
I got it,
just
I got
like
it, yep.
he was.
I got what you're saying.
Yeah, I know it's
She might
highly
be controlled
unlikely,
by
but
whoever the power broker is.
Yeah, I mean, she like the Winter Soldier, just kind of like this brute that, like, you know, didn't really have like kind of. I mean, Sharon Carter just seems very capable, you know, in a conversation. She seems like relatively normal. Like, I don't think like Bucky
Yeah.
would just be like, as a Winter Soldier, just be like, you know, like. I don't know how to describe it. I think you know what I mean. Like, just like, you know, she kind of has a personality, but again,
Yeah,
I
she
guess that
still
could be.
seems like
Yeah,
she has agency.
yeah, she
of
seems
her
like
own.
herself. So
yeah, but I think that there's lots of little. For me, I know, maybe it's a little bit out there, but for me, there's lots of little clues. Like when you see, when I think Sam first calls her on the phone or whatever, she's like walking down like this like zigzag alleyway with a bunch of like roadblocks in the way, and there's like some bodyguard looking dudes standing there, but they're not like stopping her. She's just kind of freely like walking down this, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow, she's
I'd
like.
imagine a scene next week of, I think probably Sharon. We're gonna see.
She just seems
Sharon, and
shockingly powerful.
She's gonna talk to the power broker.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, I do
Devontae
think that-
is commenting
I could see that
that
happening.
Sharon being a power player in Madripoor already involves a change in ethics. And
Yeah.
like, to be clear, Devontae, I agree with that. But to me, there is a very sharp, well-defined line between engaging in petty crime, like mafia stuff in
Mhm.
Madripoor, and deliberately creating super soldiers in a way that you know is going to get innocent people and underprivileged people killed. Like
Yeah,
in a
you
way
gotta
that
think
is
about it. Sharon
guaranteed
works for
to
the
get
government.
innocent folks killed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can understand being like anti-government, anti-establishment, like engaging in black market dealings and petty
She has
crime.
relatively good morals.
I can't
so-
understand her like doing something that she knows will hurt innocent civilians.
So wait a minute,
which-
did we ever
That's different.
establish that the power broker definitively wanted the serum so that they could make their own bad super soldiers and take over the world? Or because as far as we know, the Flag Smashers wanted access to the super serum for their own reasons, but despite wanting the serum back, we haven't determined what the power broker's motives are, have we?
Not really.
So like we don't know that the power broker doesn't want to like create more Steve Rogers. Or, I mean, I know it just seems unlikely, but I'm
That's
always
what I
trying to think
thought.
about
I
what the
mean, maybe
unlikely
I'm just
situation
imagining.
is.
I thought that
Yeah,
too.
maybe.
I think that he wants.
I mean,
or
because
she,
I mean,
I guess wants to see him.
I know
don't
we
know.
see like Sharon Carter with that, like she like zooms in on John Walker from like, you know, a bird's eye view with some like crazy technology, and it's like
Yeah.
she just has all these like toys and access and satellites, and it just seems like where is her? It's not just because she's rich; she has power too, and I want to
Yeah.
know where that power is coming from.
Probably
mean,
from the
I
power
think
broker.
there's,
Yeah,
like-
okay,
It's
I guess.
suspicious. We can leave it at that.
No, that's
Perhaps,
fair,
But I
that's
also
fair.
keep coming back to there's like other explanations for that.
Oh yeah,
that
she
are
also
just
says
as
the power
likely.
broker was pissed when he found out whatever, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
how does she know
I
that?
think they're
Well, because
definitely
the criminal underworld
communication
in
for sure.
Madripoor is gossiping. Like
Okay.
it seems like that is a figure who is already established.
So I mean, like if
as,
you're at the
like-
very least, if you're playing the like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with Sharon Carter and the power broker, it's literally like probably like I'm saying like she's one step away from the power broker. Like she can contact the power broker if she wants to. Or
Yeah, I, mean,
'cause
I
she's-
definitely do think they're in communication. And,
Yeah,
I
okay.
imagine a scene. Like I said, I imagine a scene where I think a scene with Sharon. That'll
when
be
they
the
drop
reveal
that
for the
power broker, it'll be like
Yes,
she'll be in
yeah.
the scene kind of
She'll
thing.
be in that scene. Yes.
That's a
All in
good.
the
I like
game
that.
is mentioning that in the comics, the power broker is basically an arms dealer.
Yes.
The arms in this case being super serum.
Justin
But that,
Hammer.
again,
Justin
that
Hammer.
again, I can't imagine Sharon.
I don't know.
Justin
That's one of
Hammer.
those
I'm
things-
a-
It's not gonna be. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be no one. It's not gonna be someone we've never met before. It has to be someone that.
Well, and
Yeah.
Justin Hammer was an arms dealer, and I mean
Right.
that's one of those like. That's one of those.
He's just
tropes
such a
that sort of, like,
bozo, though. He's not
unequivocally
I
threatening.
know, but
Yeah.
he could be changed a little bit. He can be different. I don't
He's
know.
one of those like it's like Batman is rich and has power because he's rich, but he's also like a threatening dude. Like, he'll kick like Justin Hammer is just a wimp, and like there's nothing's gonna change that. Like so, his only power lies in his ability to buy people.
I just don't know who else it could be because like
I do
It's
love
not
the idea though.
it's not gonna be someone like. It's not gonna be like a reveal, and then it's just gonna be like, oh, I have no idea who that is. Like
So, like,
it's
the-
gotta-
our
it's gotta
list
be-
is- Our list is Arnim Zola, Justin Hammer, Sharon Carter, and who else is unknown character that we had? Was that those are the top
there's
three?
I think that's all we've talked about.
I'm gonna throw Ralph Boner in there, but
Ralph.
anywhere
Yeah,
we can list him 1,000 names before, and he's always.
it's Mephisto. It's
Ah.
Mephisto.
But it's
all the
never
way.
zero.
Oh yeah, Mephisto.
Mephisto is the power broker.
That's a good one.
It could. I mean, yeah. It could. I mean, what Red Skull?
But he's in space
Yeah.
right now, as we
Is
know.
he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's done with
Angela
Earth.
maybe.
is saying
done with
Zemo
Earth,
has
I
had
think.
previous dealings with the power broker before, in theory, before Sharon entered this Madripoor world. This is another big thing for me. It seems like in the world of the show, the power broker is a bit of an established character in the Madripoor criminal world. Like
Right.
they're all aware. This person didn't arise last year out of nowhere. It seems like this is like a known.
Well, again, that
sort
that
of
points to
mafia
Justin Hammer. But yeah,
Hey,
the Arnold
guys.
Zola
Points to
thing-
Justin Hammer.
got-
He's
Yeah.
existing network. You know.
We got a $5 super chat from Angela Lewis. Thank you,
Oh,
Angela.
wow.
That's
Yeah,
like
Thank you
our
for the
Awesome.
support. Yeah.
that's our first Jedi Jive live super chat, I believe.
Yeah.
She said, for me, the timing is wrong for Sharon to be the power broker. Sharon was
I
still
agree.
with government
Yeah.
when Zemo
Yeah.
was using the
I
power
really
broker.
agree. I'm gonna be like disappointed
Yeah.
on
I'm-
multiple
yeah.
levels. Like not just because I like the character, but because narratively it makes no sense
Doesn't
for me.
make
Okay,
sense.
we
yeah.
can get on board with
So
her
many
being
reasons.
adjacent to in some way the power
Yeah,
broker.
yeah,
Had-
yeah.
Sure.
100%. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
And
wanna go to the-
reluctantly
I wanna go to
adjacent to,
the-
of course.
Yes, I want to go to
Yeah.
the Arnim Zola thing for like 1 second because
Yeah,
like
yeah. Go
go
crazy, man.
I don't see that happening because like he's just a computer right now. Like he's a computer, but then again, I mean he did explode in Winter Soldier. I guess there could be a backup of him, but like
yeah.
okay, this is wild.
So
I
you
don't
see
know
like a
if the- I
giant
don't-
robot with like a
Yes,
TV screen
yeah,
in the
I don't know
tummy
if he had,
with
like,
his
a
face on
body.
it.
That way.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Karen from
I don't know.
SpongeBob.
So that
Yeah.
could happen. Again, I mean, he's Armslow is a classic Cat villain. Justin Hammer is not so much. So again, that could. Justice Hammer. It seems likely, but I mean, Arnim Zola. I'm thinking for Cap villains because it's like basically a Cap show. So I'm trying to think of Cap villains we've already, that's already been established in the universe, and yeah, he seemed likely. Again, we've never seen him in that robot body. We know he's uploaded into some kind of, software. So I don't know. It's
Well, we got a comment here suggesting that Power Broker might also be the Mandarin, and with the real Mandarin, not Trevor Slattery.
that's Shang-Chi.
Not Trevor
We're gonna
Slattery,
wait.
yeah.
We're gonna wait for that. That's
also-
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, that also kind of makes sense because we know that Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings is coming. Like
Yeah.
that's already a show that is coming, and that there is a real Mandarin out there somewhere.
Well,
Um,
John
Yeah,
has
they
pointed
might
out that
call
it's
the
a little
Power
late in the
Broker.
season to introduce a new character, though.
He wouldn't be
It's
called the
yeah, I
Power
mean,
Broker.
It's also not impossible that Justin Hammer is associated with the Mandarin because we know again,
Yes.
one shot, Justin Hammer was in the same prison as
Oh.
Trevor Slattery
Do you
at the
think?
time that the real Ten Rings, but it was Scoot McNairy. The actor's name is Scoot McNairy. He was one of the leads from the show *Halt and Catch Fire*. He comes in and he's actually part of the Ten Rings and wants the real Mandarin and Trevor Slattery to have a word with each other. So, I mean, Justin Hammer is in that same scene. It's entirely possible that like Justin Hammer has teamed up somehow with the real Mandarin, and that there might be a lead in to
Yeah,
town.
yeah, that's what I was gonna just say. Yeah, so you think, I mean, in this case, that Justin Hammer is gonna be the power broker, but then we got Shang-Chi, and I imagine Mandarin's gonna be in something else. So I mean, like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, and
we'll
Sean
get that kind of reveal at the end, like, oh, like there's
Sean Banks pointed out that Justin Hammer could
teaming
have
up with
taken the
somebody,
serum
so
too,
the
which I
Mandarin.
totally passed my mind.
Yeah,
That-
the other thing with the serum is like, I have a feeling we haven't seen the end of the serum. Obviously, like the power brokers doses of serum, the Wilfred Nagel doses of serum are gone, but I am very certain that the US government still has samples of whatever they used on Steve and Isaiah.
Were you
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
bothered?
very sure like other people still have, like, not to mention like there might be some Red Skull stuff left over. Like there are multiple parties throughout the years here who, over the past 80 years who have had access to this serum, and some of them probably still have. Plus Isaiah is still alive, for
Yeah,
sure.
do you think that there'll be like stories outside of this show that have to deal with the serum? I feel like this is gonna be like the serum show, and then I don't think they're gonna
Serum
really
show.
touch.
I
the
just feel like
serum.
we can't
serum show.
rule out that some version of the serum is going to crop up in the MCU again in future. I don't think like this is the end of all serum.
What project would you think that would come back in?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm just pointing out, like, even if we deal with
She-Hulk? I don't know.
possibly, although I know that was like gamma radiation, right? That was a separate thing.
they can make a Hulk serum. I mean, screw it.
Maybe. U.S. government had serum to make
fictional.
So wait a minute,
Abomination.
on
Yes,
this-
exactly. Devontae's pointing out Abomination was made in a similar way.
Yeah.
So like there are definitely parties out there who still have access
I could see that.
to
I could
some
actually.
version of this.
I could
Yeah.
Were
see that
any of you
happening,
guys
so.
bothered by the fact that John Walker's took the serum off screen? And I think
I wanted to see that. I was actually
Yeah, I
pissed
wanted to
about
see
that.
that.
Yeah.
well, I
did
think
wanna see that.
I was originally kind of pissed about it, but now that I think about it, I'm like, well, that actually just leaves an opening for them to do a flashback scene in the next episode.
But why?
Well,
Yeah,
first,
why would they
we
need
only
that?
met. I'm assuming it was John Walker's wife that we met in that first episode, right? That the black lady that he was in the locker room with, and she was talking about like his high school days.
Yeah,
or
I know
whatever,
what you're
and
talking
then-
about. I think it was just like a close friend. I don't think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think so. I thought that. Yeah, I didn't get.
Okay,
that
so you
impression.
think that was just maybe his like high school girlfriend or something that was like?
Yeah, I think it was a close friend. Yeah.
I think that actually you're right. I think that was his high school
They had some
girlfriend.
kind of history, but yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
get.
They
the
probably
Not
would
his
have like
wife.
kissed or something.
Okay, so
but,
he's
like,
supposed to
yeah.
be unmarried then, because I was gonna say like, what's she gonna think about that?
I mean, yeah,
video of
Cap's
him?
wife. Could you imagine that if like they have like
That wouldn't
Cap's
fit with their
wife.
optics, would it? Like, I think part of the thing is that like he's a full-time soldier all the time. His only job in life is being a
Right.
soldier. He's not
Yes.
a family man.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah,
part
he's
of
never
why they-
brought up a wife or anything either.
Yeah,
feel
I
like
think
he
like
would.
he's just
That
all
would definitely
soldier
be
all the
established,
time.
yeah.
He does his
Yeah.
job.
Okay. Some people are misunderstanding that because I've seen a lot of people like refer to her as like his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
If Cap had a wife, that'd be a big deal. So
I see
Yeah.
people bringing up how like RA just said like saw John Walker's bloody shield. I saw it as an eye for an eye, which is perfectly like I see some people saying like I don't necessarily disagree with his action, and I mean I do personally disagree with what he did,
yeah.
but to an extent like he just saw his friend be killed by that person,
That's
and
true. But that's not how
with all
I
the
imagine that's
pressure-
not how it's gonna be.
No, Devontae, we haven't seen
no.
anybody take this perfected serum,
Nagel version.
the Nagel
yeah, we haven't
serum.
seen
We've
anyone
seen like
take the
Steve
Nagel
go into
version.
like the pod and like get all
Yeah.
jacked up and crazy. But like, because when we were wondering, I was like, oh, how do you take? Does he inject it? Does he drink it? Does he? How does he? Does he just like and put it in and done? Because Carly had specifically mentioned how they were in like agonizing pain for days when they took the serum. So like we were kind of like shocked to be like, oh, he just took the serum. Why is he?
He's fine. He's here bending.
Yeah,
bending,
I
you
do
know,
wish we
like,
saw a scene.
Is it just
I
because he's an
know.
all-round badass already, and he's just like gritting through it, and is already on like sort of like a in rage mode? So like
Yeah,
it's just manifesting differently in him because of his character or whatever.
yeah. I think he was already
Possibly.
pumped up on adrenaline because I mean, or whatever. just 'cause-
Christina says he has a wedding ring and that her
He
name
just
is
died.
Olivia Walker. So I guess we're wrong, and maybe that is his
Oh.
wife.
Okay,
I find
so
that
Alright.
I find that very
Oh.
weird. Like they're gonna have to address that. If that's
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
that's the
'cause
case, they're gonna have to
I
address
think
that.
somebody used some very weak
Wait, is that her
defense in
actual
our.
name? That's from like on the cast list. That's what
I think
she's-
so. Yeah.
Hmm.
It must
Okay.
be.
All right.
Because there was that
Then
line
they'll
when John
certainly have to
Walker
address
said
that
to the
issue.
Dormilaje, he was like, all right, let's put down the pointy sticks. And you can see in our reaction, Jenny and I immediately were like, oh, God.
Ugh.
Oh yeah,
It was
John
so
Walker. Like he was actually awful in this episode. Like he
Yeah,
just
and
ruined
then
literally everything that happened.
somebody
that
in
was
our comments
condescending,
was-
sexist and racist all at once in
Right.
very specific, tangible ways.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he thinks, again, Dylan, I think was you that pointed out, he's not even in America. Like he's in somebody else's country and he thinks it's his right to come in and call
Right.
all the shots.
So are
You
they,
know?
to be fair, but yeah,
And
yeah.
then so are they,
Right.
but like
Yeah.
it's certainly not on him. And he's in
Right.
Zemo's property. He's in somebody else's house in somebody else's country, and he's telling this third party like what to do. And
Mm.
then to be like,
Mhm.
okay, ladies, like, you know what? Okay, these ladies can kick
Yeah,
your ass.
and they just
first
kicked
of
his
all.
ass.
And also pointy sticks. It's full like that's like what you're so much better because you use guns or something. Like it was so bad on so many levels. That was
And
just
yeah,
such
he has a
he's
shield.
basically calling him
crazy-
subhuman.
Well, and that's another thing. His shield comes from Wakanda. They made his
Right.
shield.
Well, the
Yeah, that's
vibranium
true.
does at least,
Now,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
you
the
know,
most like that was
vibranium
why I got
that makes
mad
that
because I
shield
was
so
like,
powerful comes from Wakanda. I was like, I think I said it in our video. I was like, show some respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the
Well,
reason
I
the
bet he
reason
didn't
I
even
brought
know
up the
that, though.
hey,
I
the
bet
reason
he
I
didn't
brought up
even
the
know
wife
that.
to begin with is because somebody in our comments had said, like, oh, well, how can John Walker be racist there? Like, if his wife is black. And I was like, oh, God, another, like,
This is a whole
just-
long conversation
Yeah,
about
yeah.
having a black friend or
Yeah,
even a
let's-
black
let's
friend
not go
child
there right
does
now, but-
not
Yeah,
mean
let's
that
not.
you are
Yeah.
not subject to the system within which you work.
But
So-
somebody
This is
said,
actually something that came up in the course of the episode was the difference between systems and people. And we can
Mm.
understand like why John Walker, the person, is pissed because his friend was just murdered. And we can understand like why the flag smashers are doing what they're doing because they have been marginalized and abused and mistreated. And we can understand like the motivations. We can understand why Zemo is angry because his family was killed. You know, we can understand exactly what motivates all these people and we can sympathize with it, but it is two different things to we have to understand the difference between individuals doing individual things and systems of power. And the show is going hard on that. This is part of that conversation, that amazing conversation that Sam and Carly had, where he says basically, you know, this guy Zemo thinks you're a supremacist. And she goes like, no, I'm against supremacists. But then 2
Yeah.
seconds later, she's like, those people are just roadblocks on my journey. It's a means to an end thing again.
Yeah.
And like,
Mhm.
how many means are too many? When does your end actually end? You know, that's the question we're
100%.
being asked. Like, you know, how many eggs is it okay to break before you get to that omelet? And this, the problem that Carly is having is that she's treating these returned people as her enemy. This is actually very present. There's a conversation that I'm sure many of you have seen about white replacement theory. It's a very prominent news anchor in America, opinion anchor, I should say, but there's a very prominent television personality who gave a speech this week that was a full-throated espousal of white replacement theory, which is that, you know, in this case, like the Jews or the Blacks are coming to replace us and take away our rights, our resources. And it's the same conversation about allocation of resources, that as long as we think there's not enough to share, then it's just crabs in a bucket. It's everybody looking out for themselves and their own. And Carly, in a way, although she's fighting for the underprivileged, she's fighting for a marginalized population. In effect, she's engaging in a form of replacement theory, which is that these returned people, these blipped people are coming to replace us. I was marginalized my whole life, and then during the blip, I was given a home. And then these folks came back and I was taken away from my home. And that isn't fair. Like, she has been treated unfairly. She has been marginalized. On the other hand, that's not the fault of the people who returned. They're not her enemy. The system is her enemy. And she's conflating them. Carly, is treating the system and the people who are within the system as one and the same thing.
yeah.
So the real challenge here is like, how do we see each other as human? How do we learn to treat our enemies or our competitors
Yeah.
as human and find a way to like create a new system, a better system together? We can't we can understand everybody's motivations. We can understand, you know, the fact of like wanting to take care of your own. But when you then turn against somebody else who's also just trying to survive, these are all just people trying to survive, trying to stay alive in a very fractured world. So like, how do we learn to love each other? Honestly, like, how do we learn to be kind to each other and treat each other as human, while recognizing that, you know, that there are privileges, that some people have advantages
Right.
that they haven't earned.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that's a like in the show itself. I was thinking about this like when I finished the episode. The show has a lot of themes that are really kind of big downers, where you're kind of like, wow, our world sucks, and there's really like no hope. But then you got Sam, who's like really right in the middle of it, like really right in the middle. But he's in the Carly conversation. He's like he's pretty optimistic to an extent. He's like, you know what,
That's why
like
he's a
I've
good
seen
Cap.
right, and he's like, I've seen the good in the world, and like there's strides we can make without killing and hurting and putting other people down to make the world a better
Yes.
place. And I think that's kind of like just looking at Sam, that's really inspiring, and that's
His-
just a really
I
cool.
think that was the
this
biggest
is
tease
why
of
he's
him
the
becoming
perfect
Cap.
Cap. He
from-
has the
from this episode, yeah.
experience of being a marginalized population himself, of being
Yeah.
a Black man in
Yeah.
America whose family is being left in the dust. But he also has the experience of being a war hero and an avenger, and of fighting for an idea, for an
Yeah.
ideal.
Yeah.
So he really does. And I mean, this is why he was the perfect person to go talk to Carly, because he understands her trauma. He sees her not just as a
Yeah.
terrorist or a means to an end, but as a human with human
Yeah.
problems. And John Walker comes in like, you're a terrorist, you're an item on my agenda.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and then just starts
Yeah.
fighting and
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, yeah, I was saying earlier, I really liked that scene, and I really liked how Sam approached that
Yeah.
situation.
Sam's methods are definitely because
'Cause,
his
you know, you
his
expect-
reasoning was to she's vulnerable now. Now's our time to talk to
Yeah, you
her.
expect them
He
to go
wants to
guns
apprehend her
blazing. You
just as much
expect
as
that,
John
yeah.
does, but John just wants to
Yep.
go in there and kick her ass. Like
Yep.
Sam wants to go in and reason with her, and
Yeah.
that method
I
alone
think-
is the yeah.
So there hasn't been too many things. I've been thinking about this, like, because we know, I mean, we pretty much know Sam will be Cap. He's going to take the shield, take that responsibility. So far throughout the show, like, I mean, like for at least the first 3 episodes, I was like, Sam, like, I really thought they were going to do this storyline of like, you know, Sam trying to accept the shield. Obviously, it's a little different, but they're still kind of doing that. But for the first 3 episodes, like Sam, like, obviously he's been good, but like, you know, nothing was like, oh, I see Cap right now. But this episode and that scene specifically, I was like, oh, and that's why he's gonna be Captain America.
I really noticed that he used the word trauma when
Yeah.
referring to Carly, when he and his colleagues were talking about like, I should be the one to go in and talk to her. He says, I've worked, you know, with veterans who are experiencing trauma. And we've talked a lot about that word and that concept of trauma, of individual and collective trauma. And it's so relevant. Like, we live in a world in which we have all been through a year of collective trauma, for which as a society, we do not have good coping mechanisms.
Yeah, and having a Captain America who is aware of that is the Captain America that they need
yes.
right now. So,
And in a way, like, there are great optics around him as well. He is a veteran. He is an Avenger. Like,
Right.
he has, you know, these 3 medals of honor that John Walker has. Like, Sam has his own super patriotic credentials behind him, but also he's the Captain America that the modern world needs. Not just, you know, star-spangled pageantry. It's not
because
just
the government
about, like,
tried the government
USOs
tried to
dancing
repeat it.
girls.
The government
Right,
tried to
they
repeat
tried to
Steve.
repeat it. Like, in the 1940s, people watched unironically newsreels with like the USO tour and the marching band and the dancing girls, and like that stirred up a sense of collective patriotism. But again, that was only ever for white people. Even during World War II, there was this idea, you know, that the world we saw on screen was the only world that existed. Well, in fact, you know, people were suffering right here in America. And Sam has seen all sides of this equation. And so he is the sort of, he has this holistic worldview that is he's the Captain America that is required for like a contemporary global world. Somebody who does understand nuances, not just allies and Nazis, black and white, good and evil. He understands the stories that fall between the cracks, the stories that have been forgotten about until now. Sam knows them. We talked about this not on our stream, but we had a conversation amongst ourselves last week that I really want to point out. I think it is very, very, very lovely on a meta level that the 2 stars they have are perfectly positioned to understand the stories they're telling. By the same right that Sam and Bucky are Avengers and have like a certain level of privilege as a result of that, like that scene with the cop might have gone very differently if Sam hadn't ultimately been recognized as an Avenger, as Falcon. So there's a certain level of privilege that comes with being an Avenger, and yet Sam still deals with being a Black man in America. By the same right, these two actors are, top level celebrities. There's a certain level of privilege that comes for Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan with being famous. On the other hand, Anthony Mackie is still a Black man in America, and Sebastian Stan is an immigrant. He didn't even come to this country until he was like 12 years old and left his own country. He's Romanian, and they left in the middle of a revolution. His family fled a revolution. So these two, and I mean, he certainly understands the immigrant experience in this country. And I think it is really lovely that they have these two actors telling these stories, because certainly they are well positioned to understand the stories they're telling, much as like Sam is well positioned to understand the other characters in the show. And it's just really, it's good casting, really well done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, 100%.
That's interesting. He's from Romania, so his last name probably isn't Stan. It was probably like Stankowski or something originally, right?
No, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea if that's true or not, but yeah, he grew up mainly in Germany.
Yeah.
After his family fled Romania. So it's, I feel like that's the immigrant story is ever present here. We're seeing these like settlement or resettlement camps, which we've got some settlement camps right on our southern border right now where we know the human rights abuses are occurring.
So wait,
very present, very relevant.
Another thing I just thought about was Steve Rogers, old Steve Rogers. Like, now that John Walker has come in and it basically just destroyed the image of Captain America, is Steve Rogers gonna have something to say about it? Is Steve Rogers, like, who most people assume is dead, but we're assuming he's in hiding still?
I don't think
we're going to hear Steve's
I think we
opinion.
talked about this before.
I think we might get to see Isaiah's reaction. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm frankly much more interested because we've put paid to Steve Rogers' story.
No, I'm confident we will have a scene where Sam goes back to Isaiah's house, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it was next week.
Yeah, I'm very certain we're going to get to have Isaiah weigh in on all of this.
Yeah, it would also be, I think I said this last week, it would be great, like, at the end to have, like, Sam, like, the new Cap, and Isaiah, like, together in the Captain America Museum with, like, a Isaiah Bradley exhibit or something, so that he's, like I said, he's...
that's definitely going to happen.
And they can have a conversation together, like, in front of the Isaiah Bradley exhibit, like, basically.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, no, I actually... I have a feeling that's gonna happen.
Because remember, like, when they first went through that exhibit at the beginning, and you actually see, like, they put up, look, there's a Bucky Barnes like element to the exhibit.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like if they got a Bucky Barnes
awesome.
edition, like, come on, you gotta Isaiah Bradley's gotta.
Yes, I love that actually.
Yeah, Christina made a really lovely comment.
Oh, and if you throw in Rhodey in there and just get all three of them, and that would be great.
Don Cheadle, more Don Cheadle, please.
I just want to see Don Cheadle again. I love him. He just like makes me happy. I love Don Cheadle so much.
Even like Rhodey and Isaiah, like, that would be a cool scene too. Just being able to, like, thank you for your service kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to point out what Christina just said. That was Steve Rogers' American idealism personified. Obviously, at the time the comics were written, that was still the story that was being told was propaganda. Like, the original comics themselves
were
a form of propaganda.
Yes.
Yes. And obviously in the MCU, in our version of this story, Steve is all of that and a bag of chips. Like, Steve is the exception to Zemo's rule. So, but he is the personification of what America has always claimed to be, whereas John Walker is closer to the America as it really is and always has been. And she says Sam represents the America we're trying to work towards, and yes, and the world that we're trying to work towards. I couldn't agree more. I think that was so nicely put, Christina. Thank you.
Yeah. So do we want to, is there anything more Falcon and Winter Soldier that we want to?
So that's great.
There is a scene I've been thinking about, which I think I'm looking too far into, but I'll share it.
No, we love that stuff.
Yeah. So when the Dora Milaje...
Does it involve Mephisto?
I wish. Maybe we can spin it into
Did you see that picture of Don Cheadle in the first episode? I've seen these thumbnails of, like, the way his, like, face creased.
Oh, and it has like an M.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a Skrull.
Anyways,
Dylan, sorry, Dylan. Go ahead, man.
No, it's all right. So the Dora Milaje and Bucky are fighting, and they kind of. So his arm falls off, and they kind of do like
literally disarmed him.
Yeah, and so she kind of does like a not a code, but like a way, like she knew how to do it because they installed it. And
He
kinda
didn't know
gives her
that
a
it could
look.
be done. Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of gives her like a "you guys really like a wow, I thought you trusted me" kind of look. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they are fighting and they are against each other, I guess, in this specific scene. So I just thought that was kind of it was very
She
subtly.
did. She put in like
there.
some kind of like code where she
Like
was like,
pressure
Right, she's
points,
like-
yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
He
it
was
fell
just
off.
shocked though. He was like,
Yeah,
and
'cause
then
he didn't
Sam asked
know.
him, "Did
I
you
mean,
know
yeah.
that she could do that?" And he was like, "Nope."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah,
that.
no, that was really interesting. Yeah, I mean, it kind of like brings this thought of like, could Bucky kind of return to his old ways? Like, there is that slight, like 1%
Yeah.
chance of that.
She
happening.
refers
That's
to him
what
as
Zemo was
James in that
trying
scene.
that's what Zemo was trying to do, was to
Right. Yeah, no,
to
but I'm saying
prove
like
his
the
point. I know you're
Dorma
still
logic
an
kind of, or
assassin.
yeah, they'll kind of had like this like fear of that maybe that happening, so that's why they would. Put
Hey,
something
Steve.
like that in.
Steve Charles dropped another $5. Thanks, Steve. Awesome. He says it also works that Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are best friends in real life.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
you can't
true.
fake that
Also, the
chemistry,
Bloody
that is
Shield says
true.
so much without speaking a single word. Very true. Like
Yeah,
that was
for
one of the
sure.
most like we talked earlier in the stream about how like I noticed a lot of reactors, including us, there was like dead silence right after that moment because it was just so hard to process. But that single image, like they could have shown him literally like decapitating the guy or like
It was
actually,
less impactful for me because I knew that was gonna happen, but that's all my own
yeah.
fault.
But then
way
like
it was
that
shot
the
was
very final
awesome.
image is the blood on the shield, and I said
Yes,
earlier
that
that
was
it's
great, yeah.
basically like this symbol that means so much to so many people has just literally become a murder weapon.
So I've thought
Thanks for
about
the
this.
support, Steve. We really appreciate the
Yeah,
the
Steve, thanks,
$5
man.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome super chats. Yeah, I was thinking, do we think that this story of John Walker, first off, Battlestar dying, which is huge,
Huge.
and John Walker,
Mike called it.
Yeah, can we talk about how I mentioned Battlestar was
Mike
gonna?
is calling all of these little like he called Red
You
Bang,
did call it, yeah, you did call it.
Mike
But I
is
was gonna,
calling things left and right.
I was gonna say, that do we think? I imagine like at some point next week or next episode, we'll get some kind of news report. So how do we think the story is going to be spun? Do you think it's going to be spun or is it going to be clear?
I think it's
Well,
gonna
I
be
think
fun.
certainly America is going to spin it like these
Right.
are
They're terrorists.
They're
Yeah.
terrorists.
So I'm
But
wondering
And
how this is going to
you
play out.
realize that like America has.
Yeah, if I
fallen
didn't
in the
murder him
eyes
out
of
in
the
public
world.
like that, he would have killed all of you. Like,
Yeah,
There's,
so that's
there's
why
a
I was saying
difference
like,
between the
footage
way
gonna
like
be
it's going
erased?
to be played on the American news and then the way the rest of the world.
But
is
see,
gonna
this is
react.
why I brought up
Yeah.
Steve's wife
know?
earlier. We had a disagreement about whether it was his wife or not, but we've determined it is.
Yes, you're
It is
Because
his wife,
somebody
apparently.
earlier in the chat mentioned like they're gonna have to bring her back to have a reaction to that. Otherwise, it's like, you saw your husband
and then they'll
commit
probably,
a murder.
They'll probably utilize that to be like the exact thing that America always does. Like, oh, he can't be an imperialist. He's married to a black wife or something. That's something
Yes.
that they're going to use. They're going to tokenize her. I would bet money that America will spin it being like they're terrorists and here is the token
And then
wife of color to prove that he's a great
Yeah,
guy.
no, I genuinely
know?
think we're gonna get like a news. I wouldn't even be surprised if the episode opened with like a news report.
But
And
then
then
on the
I
other
wanted-
hand, the whole point is that like the American news doesn't necessarily determine what the rest of the world thinks about
Right.
America anymore.
Yes.
So you're going to
Yeah.
get a lot of
I think we're
team
definitely gonna
flag
get that.
smashers cropping up elsewhere in the world.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it was Mike made a comment in one of our earlier videos where you said sometimes like America turns into the Nazis, America becomes the bad guys. And I'm like, we can talk about the historical precedent for that, but in this particular instance, if it's America versus the rest of the world, and like Sam, for instance, who understands the subtleties, is forced to take sides, that could get very, very messy. Like, is he an American veteran first, or is he defending what's
Yeah.
right? Is he an Avenger first? Like the question of sort of shifting loyalties and allegiances in a world where like everybody's wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
But then with that in mind, can Sam have compassion even for John Walker? Like is
Right,
Sam still gonna be the Steve Rogers in the situation? Is he gonna
I mean,
for the-
Sam was a soldier himself, or Air Force, but he's seen a lot of the stuff that I'm sure John has seen, and so I'm
Mhm.
sure he might feel for him a little bit.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because as we've pointed out, John Walker has been depicted to us as like not a piece of shit person. He's clearly just been met with a lot of pressure, and he didn't deserve the job to begin with. So it's whether
Right.
he's an asshole or not doesn't stop you from feeling sorry for him or like feeling his situation. I wanted to point out that is it Shamir? I hope I said your name right, Shamir Jones. She pointed out that the arm doesn't belong to Bucky. That they made it. It's made in Wakanda to protect Wakanda,
right.
and he
Yeah.
betrayed their trust. Yeah,
I
think
really
that's-
thought about that.
So she was like, my arm.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of
Yeah.
the difficulty, I think, when Bucky was so shocked by that, is yet again his freedom isn't really free. He's still like subject, whether it's his psyche or whether it's his actual body at this point. Like pieces of him just don't belong to him. And it's like another instance of when he's being controlled and not even realizing it. And
Yeah.
although I 100% support Io in that moment,
Yeah.
I also understand like how difficult that is for Bucky to feel like nothing about him is ever his own. Like nothing in his life is his own to determine, and that's got to be rough
That's
for the
that's a really interesting thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So all right, let's it's already like 10 after 4, so like let's kind of like wrap up the Falcon and Winter Soldier talk, and unless there's anything else you guys want, I'm ready to go if you guys want to keep talking about it.
Couple little details that I think are worth pointing out. I have this reaction that the shield for Sam, or the shield as far as Sam is concerned, to me it is reminiscent of Steve and Thor's hammer. That the reason Sam is worthy is because he doesn't covet it, because he's not trying to take it. If we go back to that scene, it was like way back in, it was Age of Ultron, I think, when they were all
Where
having that contest.
Vision picks up the hammer.
Pick up Thor's hammer, and like Steve,
Vision.
Vision.
Oh,
it
nudges an inch for Steve.
nudges
Yeah.
a little, and then
Thor gets real sweaty there for a
Obviously,
That
second.
was
like,
teased. That
he
was
can-
teased all the way back in Age of
It was
Ultron. Then we got
teased
that
in
in
Age of
Endgame.
Ultron
Yeah,
that like Steve was
crazy.
capable of picking it up then, and he chose not to because his ego isn't involved. And for all the rest of them, like their ego is involved. And the reason Steve is worthy, the reason Steve's able to pick it up is because like he doesn't feel the need to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And for John
Yeah.
Walker, he does. He feels the need to prove himself. He feels
Yeah,
inadequate.
he said that. He literally has said
Insecurities
that.
are front and center.
Yes.
And because Sam doesn't want it, that's the reason he deserves it. That's
So
the
what's the
reason he's
what
the right
what was the
person
reasoning
carrying it.
behind Vision being able to pick up Thor's hammer? Just
He's
sort of
not
like, all right, let's go.
human.
Not
Uh,
human. He's made of
yeah.
vibranium. Like
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
But does that the
Um,
like being worthy doesn't extend to non-human?
He's like
Probably.
an android. Yeah, androids. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it kind of matters.
Because I thought it was immediately like, oh, he's worthy. Like he's worthy. Like
Right.
Maybe that's also true, but I mean, in this instance, that the
Mm.
analogy I think between
Something with
Steve
the gem,
and Thor's
too? I don't
hammer
know. I don't
versus
know.
like Sam and the shield was very potent for me. Quick little Easter egg: the Turkish delight scene. I just
oh
want to.
yes.
I mentioned this in our video, but that's a Chronicles of Narnia reference. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the White Witch tempts the weakest of the four siblings, the most like insecure, ego-driven of the
Edmund.
four siblings, by offering him Turkish delight. She turns him to the dark side, basically.
Huh. I don't know too much about
Yeah.
Turkish delight.
That's
It's a sweet treat. And
Yeah,
in the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there are four siblings, and one of them is very easily converted to the dark side because like he wants to be the center of attention. He wants to be he wants to feel as important as his brother. And she tempts
Interesting.
him by being like Turkish delight. And that was such a creepy scene. He was singing that nursery rhyme. I was like, serial killer much? Like literally a creepy stranger offering children
Like
candy.
yeah.
The nail harder on the head. There was
Yeah.
something very Pied Piper about that too, though. Like the Pied Piper plays a song and all the children of the village follow him to their doom, you know? So it was like
Yeah.
Pied Piper meets serial killer meets the Chronicles of Narnia. It was just
Yeah.
played for maximum creepiness.
Oh, one more thing, actually. Okay, I think we should probably wrap it up after this. But Zemo, where is Zemo going? What is Zemo doing?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier that like we were the theme of the episode being a means to an end. And we were talking about how Zemo's end was to get rid of super soldiers. So he wanted to get rid of the serum. And so like if he's actually destroyed all of the serum, now he's still going to want to get rid of Carly because she's still a super serum
All right.
user or
Do
whatever.
you think we'll see him again?
But that does not stop Zemo from continuing to want to get the Winter Soldier back, because we've seen hints of him already teasing the violence out of Bucky, and like when he made that line in the last episode saying didn't take much for him to fall back into form,
Yeah.
he said about Bucky. So he was referring to like, hey, this is easier than you know.
Yeah, he's still got to prove that point. Super soldiers are bad. There's no. He's an.
So I
Wait,
think
so you
if-
do think we'll see him again though?
Well, now that
Oh,
John
yeah.
Walker is a fresh super soldier, Zemo's gonna have a fresh interest in
Right.
defeating John Walker now. So
Yep.
that is gonna put him. It's funny to think of it this way, but like Zemo has not necessarily been like we see him shoot Dr. Nagel in the face. That's because Dr. Nagel makes super serum. We see Zemo shoot Carly because she's a super soldier, but he hasn't been violent to anyone else, right? He hasn't been violent to Bucky or Sam or tried
Including
to
Bucky.
shoot them. Yes, because he doesn't have an interest necessarily. But now that John Walker is a super soldier, is that going to mean he's going to be after John Walker, and then Sam is going to have be in the precarious situation of still being an American and having to fight on the side of
True.
America,
Yes.
but seeing how Zemo is not necessarily wrong in his desire to end the super serum situation.
Well,
Yeah.
and again, like John.
So many
Walker-
connective threads, so many just like
there
it's a
are
complex.
so many threads in this show.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane.
Yeah, who is your ally? Who is your enemy? Like
Yes.
it's
John
so
Walker
undefinable.
proves Zemo's point in as much as Isaiah. I don't think Zemo's aware of Isaiah, but Isaiah certainly disproves Zemo's point. And so far, Bucky he's maybe on the edge, but Bucky has the potential to disprove Zemo's point. And like Zemo, he is an extremist, and he's definitely looking for things to validate his pre-existing opinion rather than changing his opinion. And so like as much as Isaiah and potentially Bucky prove him wrong, John Walker proves him right. John Walker is
Ooh.
everything Zemo fears about that serum.
Hold
right
the
now.
phone. I got to give special shout out recognition to Mandy. Is it Mandy Sherratt?
Sure.
Mandy Sherratt? Mandy Sherratt? Hopefully we said that right.
We love you,
Including
Mandy.
a £5 the super chat. She also said she joined the
Wow.
Patreon, making you my first official
Let's
Patreon.
go.
Yes.
Let's go, Mandy. Yeah, you're gonna get special
Yeah.
shout outs for the
Thanks
rest
for
of the time
support,
now.
people. You guys
Yeah,
are
Yeah.
that's awesome. Guys.
That's awesome. So like obviously on the Patreon, I've just started it. We haven't really had a chance to add that much content to it yet, but hopefully we're going to be adding full unedited reactions to Patreon. So if you're
Sweet.
wanting to
Awesome.
see my reactions and Jenny's reactions in full unedited form, we'll be offering that on Patreon. So thanks, Mandy, so much for
Whoa.
supporting
We got a
and
$10
contributing.
super chat from
MP with the
MP over
$10.
here. You guys are amazing today.
Whoa, yeah, this is awesome today, guys. Thanks so much, MP. Do you
Okay,
think Bucky will
awesome.
somehow gain Ayo's trust again? Love you guys' reactions. Keep up the good work. Thanks, man, so much. Yeah, earlier in the stream, we were talking about how from that amazing opening scene with Bucky and Ayo, it seemed like they were basically just making it evident that Ayo and Bucky sort of have a relationship. Whether or not that's like an intimate sexual one or not isn't necessarily, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
But the fact that they are intimately connected with one another is evident because she would have had to gain his trust in some way to begin with, because he was the Winter Soldier. And so what would be her motivation for trusting him in that moment, unless they were already had a relationship with each other? So to see them at odds in this episode, with her basically being like, screw you, man, like that is, that's tough to see. But yeah, you really hope that there is that they will be able to mend that relationship. And then not only that like the continuation of the Bucky storyline will hopefully be in like the Black Panther story, and that like we'll continue to see Bucky in Wakanda moving forward,
Yeah.
hopefully.
I can imagine that, maybe not in this show, but in another project moving forward. I can imagine the sort of conflict of trust between Bucky and Ayo, or Bucky and the Dora Milaje being a plot point. I can imagine that being like the
Mhm.
central conflict that drives an episode of something, or that drives a
Yeah.
scene.
Well, do you
Um,
think Bucky's gonna
forward.
end up in Wakanda at the end of the show?
We've
Or
talked
no?
about that possibility. I don't know. I think
It seems a little early, but I do think eventually
There's
that's
only
where
2
we're going.
episodes left too. It seems like
Yeah.
there's just not
I
enough
think
time.
very
Yeah.
strongly that Bucky does have to figure out who he is in this world. I've mentioned this before, but like the Winter Soldier was a Hydra assassin.
Mm.
Bucky Barnes is from the 1940s. So like, who is that person now today in this post-blip 2021 globalized world, like, in recovery, carrying all his guilt and pain? Who is that character, and how does he carve out an existence for himself in the here and now? And I think whether it's in Wakanda or something else, I think that is a question that he's still going to have to answer for himself. Is like, who do I get to be now? So
Yeah.
that's I'm fascinated by that. I want to see
Yeah.
how that
Yes,
plays out.
And
I-
if there is no second season of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then like hopefully
I'm
like
pretty positive there's gonna be, but yeah.
you think so? Yeah.
Maybe.
I
I'm
mean,
pretty
I hope
pretty
so. I
positive.
really hope so.
WandaVision not so much, but Falcon and Winter Soldier.
well, the only
They've
thing is
confirmed
because of
that
the name you.
WandaVision was one and done.
Yeah,
That's
Well, the thing is though is that implies that like Winter Soldier is still a thing, like, and that like we're wanting Bucky to move away from Winter Soldier, right? That's what we're hoping the end game is here for his
I mean,
character.
even though
But
the
also it
title-
implies
yeah,
that
I don't
Sam
know.
and Bucky are like permanently a team because we did hear I don't remember what the context was, but in this episode like Bucky snaps back like, oh yeah, that's it, they're in that alleyway and John Walker is like, we're gonna do it my way, and then John Walker refers to like, oh, your partner or something like that, and Bucky says we're not partners. So he's still trying to like distance himself from Sam just because of their attitude or whatever, their tough attitude about each other. But that might be a hint that like they are partners and we're going to see more of that. And like them not only being partners, but like Bucky admitting that like Sam is his friend and admitting that like we do work together. We do have a common goal.
I want to call out a couple of things from the comments here, that he might end up going by the White Wolf. So a possibility that it could be like they could
Captain
even
America
retitle
and the
the
White
show.
Wolf.
It could be like Falcon and the White Wolf.
Yes.
Or Captain America
and the White Wolf. Yeah.
I also want
That's
to
what
call
I
out
think.
Sean
Hell yeah. Okay, so it's like season 2, but it's got a different title. It's got
like
yeah.
Captain America and the White Wolf.
And the whole Marvel like streaming on Disney Plus format totally allows for that without some kind
Exactly. I also want to call out what Sean said, that Bucky still has to deal with this issue of admitting to Yuri that he killed his son. That's going to be his final amend, right? Like that's the one that really hurts. It's the one that really counts because he's formed a friendship with this man.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
His friendship might realistically be over, but that plot point, this is called the Chekhov's gun. Chekhov says that if you introduce a gun in the first act of a play, that gun is going to be used by the end of the play. Otherwise, you don't include it. So that's what that kind of detail is. It's, we met the man in the first episode, and then it was referenced again when Zemo stole the hit list, stole the notebook. So, or not the hit list, but the amends list. And so that's something that is going to be like his final amend, the one that really counts the most, is like he's going to have to confront that and admit the truth.
And then does he go to Wakanda, or then what happens?
We'll find out what happens.
And
what options are available.
Yeah, Shamir says we get to season 2, we'll still have to see Torres become Falcon. Yeah, we had actually.
Oh yeah.
We had actually thought that like if Sam does get a chance to like actually physically become Captain America at the end of this show, that might be in conjunction with Torres, like him, like Red Wing will get repaired and it'll be like, oh, here's Red Wing, he's back to life again because he's just
Sam will have a new
drone basically.
We'll have a new Red Wing.
Yeah, and he'll be able to give that to Torres. Yes. But they haven't included Torres in the last few episodes, so they didn't make him as involved as I thought maybe they would have.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be a little more involved. Yeah, I do think there's gonna be the mantle of the Falcon itself being passed down as well.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, I don't think this happens in the comics, and he's his own character in the comics. But then there's still also Isaiah's nephew.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Patriot.
Isaiah's nephew, maybe.
I wonder if that was more of. I think we're gonna see him again in a potential Isaiah scene. Well, I mean, pretty positive there's gonna be an Isaiah scene.
Okay.
But,
multiple people have mentioned the next episode is 61 minutes. Just want to point that out. That's amazing.
They've got a lot to wrap up in 2 episodes. They're gonna need to stretch.
I know.
It out.
I mean, remember WandaVision was the same thing. We were like, how are they gonna do all this? But anyways, yeah, the Patriot. I wonder if I don't think by any means like Patriot will get that mantle. He'll get that mantle, but I think it'll still be heavily teased for again a future project. So maybe it's again season 2 of
it's not only because I know that
Wolf.
Eli in the comics does have his own superhero journey, and because we're setting up Young Avengers, and because we know that the next generation's coming, it makes good sense that character's introduced now and will continue to exist in the franchise. But it doesn't mean that he's going to follow the exact same storyline as the comics, and in a way, giving him these wings. The wings were originally like Army tech or Air Force tech. They were U.S. military tech that Sam had, experimental tech, and now they're being used as a tool of the Avengers. In a way, it would be a form of reparation.
Oh yeah, okay.
And what happened to him to give the prominent patriotic symbol of these wings to the nephew.
Yeah.
Shamir brought up another thing, which I think is really important. Thanks for the awesome points, Shamir. You brought some good stuff to say.
The chat has been amazing.
Shamir's
Yeah,
been
you
all
chat.
over
You guys have been
guys.
awesome
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
But
You guys have
Shamir
been
says,
awesome.
You guys
"What
are on
happens if?"
fire today?
She says, "What happens if Battlestar was just knocked out? How does that
I
change
was
the
thinking
response to
that.
Walker's response?" Because we did. I agree, Shamir.
True.
They did show
True.
a shot of Battlestar sitting there after John Walker had like jumped out the window and started running.
Yeah.
To me, which was
Right.
very like, why did they show him again if he wasn't potentially maybe still alive? But
Mm.
John Walker is a soldier who knows what he's doing and has probably checked 1,000 pulses in his life.
Pulses, yes.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
was
and-
like, I feel like he
it-
checked.
Yeah,
his
I'm
pulse.
I don't
pretty
think he
sure
would have like
Battlestar
missed
is
the
dead.
fact that he was still
Yeah.
alive, because he would have been like, "Get
Also,
this man a
the-
medic now!" Like it
Yes.
wouldn't have been
Also,
like.
the impact of that moment for us as an audience, like seeing him go down and watching that happen, that was extremely difficult to watch.
Definitely implied that he's dead. So
And
Yeah.
I don't, that would really undercut, I feel like him being alive would undercut the incredibly strong reaction we all had that was so horrifying
Mhm.
and difficult.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
from
I
our,
think-
even from our
think-
safe little remove, that just hit really hard, and it would really undercut the power of that moment. But also, like, if indeed he were still alive, that would just be one more thing for John Walker to snap over. Like,
Yes.
oh my God, I
Yes.
killed someone
Yep.
for no reason.
Well,
I'm
no,
the
no,
worst,
because
you know?
he clearly had what would have basically been a spinal cord injury. So
Yeah.
if he is alive, it's going to be he's paralyzed from the neck down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be the only way that they could play that would to be like,
Yeah.
because John Walker took the serum because he asked his best friend Battlestar, Lamar, "Hey, if you were offered the opportunity, would you take it?" And Lamar was like, "Hell yeah, man."
Yeah, he's like,
So
yeah.
like, why didn't John Walker give Lamar the serum then? Because if he was having doubts about taking it and Lamar just expressed, "Yeah, man, I would do it," he did it because he had insecurities about his own situation. Yeah.
Right.
No,
and
I
the
think that-
Dormilaje come in and like completely just hand him his ass, and he's like, they weren't even super
I think
soldiers.
that
Yeah.
scene was meant to perpetuate that kind of idea. Of
So, like, if-
John is
If
He's
Battlestar
feels
was
it
still
out.
alive and
Yeah.
paralyzed, it would be like, man, like he could have given the super serum to Lamar, and Lamar would still be alive, kind of thing. But
Yeah, I wonder if they'll touch on that,
I don't
yeah.
think Lamar's alive. I think he's dead. I think that was
I
pretty
agree. It
I
really
think
was
so,
such
yeah.
I'll agree,
a
yeah.
powerful moment.
especially
visually.
since everybody, including the Flag Smashers, just stopped fighting. The second it was like, oh, almost like
Yeah.
dogs that were like fighting, and then somebody got injured,
I
and all
know.
of a sudden it became
definitely-
like,
I thought the same
oh, this
thing.
isn't we're not just playing around anymore. This is like
yeah,
life
the
and death.
stakes are real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone got hurt.
I honestly, I could talk about that scene all afternoon, but I kind of don't want to. So I know we said this is going to be a long episode, but should we
Oh.
maybe try to wrap up the Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff? Because we have other things to discuss.
Do you? Well, I mean, is the main thing you wanted to talk about real quick the Loki trailer?
Oh, we definitely have to talk about
Okay.
the Loki trailer. And then I think John has some Star Wars stuff to discuss as well.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
get
we
ready.
can. I mean, the Loki trailer in general. I don't know if you guys saw my reaction, but I was already hyped for Loki, and I was
Yeah.
already like, "This is going to be awesome." But that
The
trailer
trailer was
brought
great.
it up another level because
It is at
This-
11. It is,
yeah,
I
think
could not possibly be more excited about this
One
right now.
WandaVision kind of kicked all this off. This whole like the new era of the MCU on Disney Plus, and like that was super stylistically enhanced, that show, where it was very like the whole sitcom decade to decade thing. We got a very like visually it was very stylistic, and then like this Loki trailer dropped, and yet again I'm like, wow, it's like very stylistic, very like the way that the timekeeper like offices almost looked like it had like a Men in Black feel to it, where they're like kind of like a super secret
I
You know what I
society.
got
to
out of
be
that actually?
Men in Black.
I got
Anybody
Men
who
in Black
studies-
vibes from that, honestly.
So did
yeah.
I. Yeah, that's
I
literally what the
got
show's
I got a
gonna be, yeah.
very different vibe from it, and I will tell you, my
Oh.
immediate reaction to the aesthetic was Fritz Lang Metropolis. It's one of the earliest like feature films. Anybody who has taken like a film history course,
Yeah,
in college,
yeah.
it is Metropolis. It's like an Art Deco, like kind of
Hmm.
city. It's this early film, and it is the basis, very specifically, the aesthetic basis for everything from the Emerald City in The Wizard of Oz to
Mhm.
like Coruscant
Mhm.
in Star Wars. These
Mhm.
are all based
Yeah.
on the aesthetic of Metropolis, and I got
That's
this
very
like very
interesting.
powerful Fritz Lang
Oh, I
vibe
see
off of it.
Metropolis.
Yeah.
Also, there were all these statues, like the timekeepers, the statues. Of
Yeah.
the timekeepers. I'm gonna see if I can screen share something with you guys right now. I'm gonna try to make this work well.
I
tell
think
you
one
Oh,
of
wait.
them is Kane the Conqueror, but
Hold
that's
on, I
about
think I might need to make you a
you might
Zoom
need to
host.
make that available to me, but I want to show a picture
Yeah,
of
just
something.
change
So
that.
basically, those statues reminded me extremely powerfully at the Griffith Observatory in
You-
LA in the Hollywood
You can go ahead and
Hills.
share now, Jenny. I made you a co-host.
Okay, good. There is a okay, share screen. I want to do this. I'm trying to like talk and do something at the same time. Let me open this thing and show you guys.
Oh,
and-
while you're doing that, I wanted to point it out that Jenny made like this crazy observation that I can't believe I missed, and which was that John Walker's like flip when like the mechanism of Lamar dying and John Walker flipping to the dark side was exactly like Anakin
yes.
changing when his mother died and killing all
Oh,
of
yeah.
the Sand people. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, he slaughtered a village, and that's like when he irredeemably went dark. Was in that moment, and it immediately because I just rewatched it recently.
All right, Jenny,
I mean,
take us to
so
school.
can you
What is
guys-
this?
Can you guys see this statue that I've shown you?
I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Is this
a
art history
sundial.
class? What's going on?
This is a sundial outside the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, and it is on all four sides. There are statues of like the greatest astronomers in history. It's like Galileo and Kepler, and a few other folks are on
Copernicus.
this statue. Copernicus is on it,
Yeah.
so you can see him over on the right and Galileo right in the middle here, and I think that's Kepler on the left-hand side. And this is a so I'll show you another view of the same thing. You can see right here.
Shout out Mandy again.
So
So
there,
Oh, yeah,
there-
Mandy's
there's
asking
another
us if
view
we're
of-
going to react to Jupiter's Legacy. I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I saw people saying like,
seen it
"Whoa, this
either.
looks awesome!" So I'll give it. I'm
Oh
gonna definitely
yeah,
check
yeah,
it
yeah.
out.
That's
Yeah,
coming out. Is that already out, or that's coming out, right?
I
The
saw the trailer
trailer,
just
the-
dropped like
trailer,
today or
yeah, yeah.
yesterday. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I
what's
wanted to talk
interesting?
quickly about
Go
the
ahead,
statue
Jenny.
because I feel like visually this is a direct reference. This is a sundial. It's literally a clock. This is literally a bunch of very revered astronomers watching over time, literally. And I got this like visual cue from it. That these like sort of looming statues in the headquarters. So I got like both that and the Fritz Lang vibes, and I feel like those are deliberate references. I was really excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and
Um,
the Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson duo vibe is like I'm all about that. Yeah. I
The
can't wait.
cat, the guy, like Loki's reaction to the cat was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen on film.
Oh, yeah.
Funniest moment ever. And then the guy has like a cat mug on his desk. But that
Yeah.
scene reminded me of simultaneously two things. Again, 1984, where like the main character in 1984 is a pencil pusher. He works in this office of like infinite records. These sort of like the Ministry of Truth, the ministry, all these ministries in 1984, but also in it's a book, it's an existential masterpiece by Jean-Paul Sartre called Les Jeux sont faits. It usually gets if people read this in high school still, I think. Usually gets translated as the game is up, but what it really means is like the game is fixed, the game is rigged, is a better translation.
Was the cat a flirkin? Says Sean Banks. Yes.
This
A
was like
flirkin.
there's this scene in that book when they go to a way station, like it's like limbo. They're in between like life and the afterlife, and they have to like get processed and registered. And it was played for comic effect with like sign this record of everything you've ever said. And he said that's absurd, and like another page prints out. But it was definitely like, oh yeah, he's being processed in this netherworld. Couple other
Yeah.
things we saw in there. We saw the visual representation of the time stream with all the branches
Yeah.
wildly breaking off.
Yeah.
This is the scene that like Hulk and
Ancient One.
Tilda Swinton, the Ancient One, had in Endgame when she explains the time stream, that like it's an unbroken stream, but sometimes things happen that cause like a divergent timeline. And we can see that whatever Loki did caused like a million divergent
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
crazy
So
timelines.
I
So we're
think
gonna get
the
to
show
see-
is gonna essentially gonna be, kind of course correcting that. They're gonna kind
Yeah.
of force Loki to be the one who is
Clean
fixing
up his
it.
mess.
Yeah.
Did
clean
you
up
notice
his
how
mess. Exactly.
Like I said, did you notice how stylized it was though? Like the monitor that they were depicting that on was like a 60s.
mid-century,
Yeah.
like a
Did you all
1960s
notice the
space
scroll?
show.
Wait,
No,
what?
There's a
What?
scroll in the trailer.
Wait,
I
John,
didn't
what?
notice.
There is a scroll in the trailer.
That just
all
throws
right,
everything
all right,
for a
keep
loop.
talking. I'll pull it up.
Oh,
The
yeah,
other
yeah.
thing we saw, there was this thing that said Roxcart. And correct me if I'm wrong, folks, in the comments. I think the only times we've seen Roxxon deliberately referenced in the MCU specifically, they might have had like a gas station. There was a Roxxon gas station or
Yep,
something like
yep.
that, but it's never been a plot point. And in honestly, most of the spin-off shows, whether that was Netflix or any of the other shows, Roxanne has played a bigger part. It was like the central villain of Cloak and Dagger. It was part of Daredevil. Like there have been references to Roxanne elsewhere, but within the MCU, I think that we might be seeing Roxanne play a bigger part here.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, these ads. All right, let me get it.
Oh wait, I probably need to make you a host too, John. Because
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
It's probably
John looks for that. The other interesting thing was seeing his like prison jumpsuit with the word variant, because he's not like OG time stream Loki. He's like this 2012 Tesseract Loki, and I was like, that's very interesting. How are these variants treated? It's like a scarlet
I got it.
letter, branded with like you're a person that doesn't belong. Very interesting.
right there.
Oh.
Yep.
No
cool.
shit. There you go.
There's a scroll.
Hi.
Yep. Yeah. I'll slow it down a little bit, but yep. Well, yeah, that was a shot, but so
there's those statues. See, those are my
Cool.
Yeah.
astronomers. It's so specific.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think
definitely similar.
no, that's not gonna. Yeah, but so I think scrolls are obviously. I mean,
Gonna
they're
get
gonna be a big focus for.
Hey Jenny, you got your own little super
I
chat here
saw.
from Angela Lewis. Thanks, Angela.
You're awesome.
Getting me so hyped with all your knowledge you were dropping. Angela, imagine being Jenny's brother.
Well, imagine being me every time this one like calls something 5 seconds before it happens, and I'm like, I'm keeping a tally of everything my calls.
I definitely like my channel has like a degree of intellectual credibility now that I just would not have without Jenny. So
Yeah.
thank you so
Yes,
much.
You had a lot of it's great. I do have to go. I want you guys can keep going in the stream, but I want to talk about one thing. I know it's a Star Wars thing, so Jenny, I'm sorry.
Do it. No,
One
Don't
quick thing.
apologize. She's catching up on her Star Wars actually.
Yeah,
She
I'm
just
probably
hasn't.
not gonna watch.
It's
like,
it's
Clone
nothing
Wars,
lore.
but
Actually, one thing about the Bad Batch, Kevin Kiner, who's the composer for Clone Wars and stuff like that,
Love Kiner, dude. Love
has
him.
confirmed that he.
14 episodes I saw.
14
yes.
episodes. So he said he's
done
worked up
14.
to that. So
Yeah.
he's done 14. So
Do you think that's
there could
16,
be more than
22?
14. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing, which is
I
huge,
don't,
which
you know
we'll
what?
find
I
out
honestly
soon,
think
but-
it's probably 14 episodes because we were told that this
Me
first
too.
episode was like 71
70
minutes or something,
yeah.
right? That's a
70, yeah.
long first episode, and every other Clone Wars episode is like basically 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's like the main like first 5 seasons are like 20, 22 episodes, but season 5 is like what, like 6, 7, 8 episodes because it was like that shorter one. I'm sorry, season 6.
No, season 6.
Yeah.
was
And then
the short
season 7 was 12 episodes, but this
Yep.
isn't Clone Wars. It's Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I know
It
it's
doesn't seem
basic-
like
22
basically
is
Clone Wars
22
season
is
8,
the
though.
dream, but yeah.
it doesn't seem like Disney wants to focus too much on one project. So that's why I just think 22 is too much. Especially
that
'cause
would
be
go
taking
all the way
us-
into August.
Yeah,
no,
that would be
I'm
ta-
all for it. I
I'm all
hope
me
for
it's
too.
it.
on
I
it.
want that so badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me show you. Let me show this quick off, and then
I think it's probably that really long first episode, and then maybe like 3-4 episode arcs, and then like a finale episode, perhaps.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Yeah.
probably like 12, and then 1 and 1 makes sense
Right.
to me.
Yeah.
22 also opens the door.
Because
for a
why
lot
would
more
Kevin
filler,
Kiner
which
do
is
music for
okay,
14
but-
episodes, but then like not 2 or something? I think it makes more sense that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, like, well, at least we know it's at least 14 episodes, which is great because that's
Yes.
already more than Clone Wars.
Yeah.
season 7,
Yes.
so.
It's
better than
All right,
8,
one quick
yeah.
thing.
Oh wait, one more thing. Bad Batch, and I've seen this a couple times, and I'm like, didn't even think about it until recently. What do you think of the chances that we get a Grogu appearance in the Bad Batch?
I talk
likely.
about that. I have a video we have a video
Yeah,
that just
actually,
came out
plug
actually.
it,
Top
Dylan,
5
yes.
things we
Because
wanna see
now
Bad
Grogu
Batch.
is a thing. People like
Right.
that
Dylan,
haven't seen
Dylan
Clone
just
Wars
posted a
have
video,
seen
actually,
The Mandalorian.
The second the stream started, we literally just posted a video. So after the stream's done, check out the channel, guys. We appreciate it a lot. Dylan just made a video. Yeah, you can talk
Right.
about it.
Well,
Dylan.
it's
I'm not
top
gonna
5
talk.
things we want to see from Bad Batch, and there's a whole section
Yes.
that's like connections to other Filoniverse stuff. And Grogu is a
Awesome.
point that I made.
Oh, okay, great. Guys,
we'll
head on
talk
over
about
to
it.
All New Nerds after this. Go check out John and Dylan's channel, All New Nerds. Great videos, great content, and they address that question in their latest video.
So, all right, this is the thing. I gotta go quick, but
Okay.
Disney showed, there was this thing that came out. about Disney making these real lightsabers, real retracting lightsabers. So I'm gonna show you the blueprint for it.
Share
and
the image.
I
This is
just wanna,
crazy, man.
I just want to see everybody's thoughts on it.
Yeah, I saw on
There
Kessel
hasn't been a
Run.
video of this. or
Kessel Run
anything.
yesterday. They were breaking
Yeah,
it down,
Kessel
like
Run.
Oh my
asking
goodness,
it.
this is like a whole blueprint.
So wait,
Yeah.
this is like Disney patented this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh
it's like an
my
actual.
goodness.
So
An
if you look
actual
at the
lightsaber?
front, there's this
Does it
LED
use lasers?
spool.
Like, what is
Yeah,
this?
It uses
No, so
LED lights. I
It's
guess.
an LED spool. So what it looks like it's gonna be, it's kind of like how a tape measure works.
Mhm.
So it'll you press a button, it'll go out and stay, and it's a strip. It's an LED strip. I think it'll also look, it'll look cool in person. But anyways, I mean,
So it's like
yeah,
a
we have
snap
not seen-
bracelet, basically.
we know
Yeah.
that it's working because there was a Disney something with the investors or something like that recently, and it was said that this lightsaber is real and it's amazing, and
Apparently
I don't know
people
when
were
it's going to be
blown away,
revealed,
yeah.
but it's supposed to be tied to the Star Wars hotel that they're doing. They're doing like this hotel at Galaxy's Edge,
Which is 1,000 a night.
which $1,000 a night. But anyways, that's another
Ugh.
thing. But it looks
Yeah.
like it's LED spool. And then if you look these like the drivetrain and the motor here. So the motor is supposed to shoot out the spool, the LEDs, LED strip. And then the drivetrain in this retracts it. So
Yeah.
it'll suck it back in and it'll go zzz. So we don't really know what it's gonna look like, but this is the obviously idea of how it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's
But
I mean,
I'm-
like up until now, like I mean, their lightsaber technology is already crazy, but like up until now, like you have an existing blade and like the lights turn on, and you can like
Yeah.
depending on how advanced your lightsaber is, you can make it look like it's like, going in and out. But this is like an actual blade, like a light blade that
Yeah.
comes in and out.
Again, I don't know if it's gonna be like if you're gonna be able to fight with it necessarily.
Like
but
this
I know there's
picture
gonna be some-
honestly looks like primitive and like stupid. It looks like
Oh,
like
yeah.
really, it just
It's
looks
gonna
like
look awesome.
some.
I know it's gonna look awesome when we actually see this and how it works. Excuse me, and how it works and everything.
Yeah,
but,
and that's
yeah.
probably just the internal structure too. It probably
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like
no,
it
this
comes
is
in
just
like
the
a
internal
chassis,
piece.
like
Yes.
yeah, like
Yes.
a case.
You'll have all these cool designs and stuff, but
Yeah,
all right,
otherwise it's
anyways,
like
I
that's
do
a
have to
very
go.
Guys, it's
yeah.
not
Okay.
a real lightsaber unless you are a Jedi using the Force to control it. So it's not
Alright, okay.
actually. a
all right.
lightsaber.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you guys for having me on. Thank you to the chat. You guys are great today. I
I
appreciate
love
it.
you
Yeah.
guys.
Again,
Thanks,
if you want
John.
to come over to the channel, we have a good time.
Yeah.
We're gonna So
Yeah,
keep
and we're
it up.
gonna wrap up the whole stream in general right now. So guys,
All right.
thanks for tuning in. Go check out John and Dylan on All New Nerds. This is our 9th week in a row doing this, and we hope you guys keep coming back because we're loving it. And thank you for all the super
Hells
chats
yeah.
today. We love you guys. Shamir, Mandy, David, Hustle Mando, all you guys. Emily, Sean, yeah,
Devontae,
Devontae, all you guys. Thank you so
You
much
guys
for tuning
rock.
in.
You guys rock. Thank you.
Angela, everybody.
See
We
you
will
next
see.
week.
We will see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.